Time for the Burnout. He is ESPN and the SEC Network's Peter Burns. I'm Ryan Brown. The show presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag, and they will match that sign-on deposit up to $1,000 with code next round at MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag. Code next round. What is up, Burnsy? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I was just telling you right before we started. I'm at the tail end of the chaotic travel world of 2023. So it's always nice when you like look at your flight app, and I use American Airlines, and there's
Right.
nothing planned. There's I have nothing on it. So I'm excited about that right now. And then sure enough, in like 2 days, I'll be like, actually, maybe we should change things around.
That's
So
right. Yeah. Let's go to the beach or whatever. Yeah. We'll figure something out. Well, it's good to be back home. Let's hit some of these bowl games. So you'll be in studio or sitting at home watching them. Let's start with what I think is a really interesting game: Ole Miss and Penn State. I was going to get an updated number. Penn State about a 4-point favorite. MyBookie.ag on this game on the 30th, and it is in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Two teams that feel like they just want to line up and run the football in this game.
Yeah, I was going to say that might be like one of the fastest games that we ever have. Is just like, all right, keep the clock running. Let's get nobody injured here. Let's work out some of the new dudes and have some fun. And actually, probably, for Lane, I think it's actually a more important game for him, because when you start looking at the momentum that they're having right now in recruiting, in the transfer portal, it seems like everybody is just coming down to the SIP, right?
Yep.
That I think it doesn't make a huge end result in the final say of everything. But if all of a sudden you're talking about, man, these guys won 11 games, they just beat Penn State, they've got this great transfer class that's coming in, Quinshawn's coming back, Trey Harris is coming back, and Jackson Dart's coming back, you're like, there's a potential that they won't even just be top 10 preseason for next year. There's a potential that it could be top 5 preseason ranked if they continue this momentum that they're building right now in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a really good offseason for Lane Kiffin. And, the truth of the matter is for him, and this bowl game doesn't affect this. It's all about the future for him. But 2 of the last 3 years, had there been a 12-team playoff, his team would have been in it or right on the edge of it. Either way, however you want to look at that. 2 10-win seasons, 10-2 seasons. I mean, moving forward, it has not been enough to get to Atlanta, but moving forward, the way he's coached the last 2 or 3 years is enough to get you in the college football playoff.
And that's why I think that there is this immense amount of pressure around this program now, that I don't know if anyone thought in the past that Lane in the 4-team playoff, there might have been an outside shot that they got in, but we understand that it's tough. And I think why it's so important is, I'm so sick and tired of every single offseason, Brownie, we're talking about, hey, man, is Lane going to be connected to this job? Is Lane going to go to A&M? Is Lane, what happens if Florida opens? All this stuff. I think it's important for him and just a lot of coaches in college football that if all of a sudden someone is at what they call a, quote, upper mid-tier team, like an upper middle class team, like a Penn State or like an Ole Miss, if they're able to go to the college football playoff and have success there, then why the hell do you need to leave? Why not build something there? As opposed to in a 2-team or 4-team playoff, you kind of need that brand. You kind of need that money. This is going to be a great case study to figure out, hey, if you work college football free agency like NFL teams work free agency and have success, that opens up a whole brand new world of possibilities for all of college football, which I think is actually exciting.
We talked about this with Missouri in a previous video. We won't preview them here. We've already previewed that game on the Burnout. Yeah. Their opportunity to play an Ohio State, when you're in Alabama, when you're in Texas, when you're schools like that, you get to play some of those bigger name schools. You don't always get to do that at Ole Miss. I mean, a chance to get to notch a win over a traditional power like Penn State's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think, listen, in theory, I said there's not going to be just the SEC and the Big Ten, right? Like there's always going to be the ACC and the Big 12 and independents and stuff like that. But it seems like more and more often I look at this and go, it basically is the SEC versus the Big Ten. When you look at the revenues, when you look at the dollars and cents of all of it, right? The Pac-12 went away because they could not afford to live in the same neighborhood as all the other Power 5 conferences. Well, that's in essence what's going to happen with the ACC and the Big 12. And so I do think there's a little extra oomph now to where it's like NFC versus AFC, that the SEC teams are going to be locked in. Now, maybe they don't care. Maybe the kids don't care about it. Maybe the coaching staffs don't care about it. They're like, bro, it's just another game. But I know that as a fan, I'm more tuned into an SEC versus Big Ten because I want to see that litmus test, right? I want to see how this conference that has been significantly stronger than any other conference in college football, how do they react, especially coming off of, I would say, a subpar non-conference 2023 football season.
And I don't have this in front of me. I wasn't prepared to do this, but I will challenge people. I did it yesterday, I think. Go look at Ole Miss's schedule next year. And you look, anymore, an SEC schedule is going to be loaded with teams that can make the college football playoff. You're never going to avoid playing really good teams. It's not an easy schedule by any stretch, but you could see a 10-2 on that schedule. Their biggest 2 games, they're at LSU, I believe. They play Georgia.
They got Georgia at home.
And they play Oklahoma at home. I think those are their 3 biggest ones. And you could find 10 wins on that schedule.
A 10-2 team, and oddly enough, a 10-2 team in the SEC playing that schedule the way it is right now with Texas and Oklahoma. I don't see a chance in hell that a 10-2 team is not in the college football playoff, not in a 12-teamer. Which is interesting because then you get into a situation where a 10-2 team that plays that between tiebreakers and let's just say there's all kinds of chaos, plays in Atlanta and then loses and becomes a 3-loss team, then there's almost a, all right, maybe they knock themselves out of the college football playoff, right? But but there's going to be some years that you're not going to qualify for the college football playoff, and there'll be at least one, if not several teams that are, or for the SEC championship, that will still qualify for the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, that scenario could have played out, say, with a team like LSU this year. You lose to a Florida State to open the season, drop a conference game, but you somehow, the tiebreakers sort out for you, and now you're a 2-loss team playing for the conference championship. You could take that 3rd loss and be out of the playoffs. I mean, there'll be times when going to Atlanta could potentially be detrimental. I think those will be few and far between, though.
So help me with this. And this was something I did on SEC this morning with Alyssa Lang. And so we were talking about it based on total vibes, right? I'm not talking about who you think will get there. Just been like, what fan bases right now in the SEC with what we see in the transfer portal signing day, with what they have coming back and their schedule for next year, feel like, you know what? As long, it doesn't have to be the greatest season in the history of seasons, but I could see us, shooting the gap and being a college football playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, so
Alabama and Georgia, without a doubt.
Right.
I would say Ole Miss.
I think they're in that group, no doubt.
Okay, Missouri, with the way that they played right now. I mean, they would have been in it this year.
Yep,
and they're starting to do real well. So that's 4 teams right off the bat. Where do you stand with that? Then it's where it's gets kind of murky, right? Do you think LSU is one of those teams?
I think they're going to want to see quarterback, right? I mean, is it going to be Garrett Nussmeier, or do you get a late portal ad in this deal?
AJ Swan, who just came in, so AJ Swan would be one of those guys. The Vandy quarterback. Do you Texas A&M? What about what they have? And they actually had along with Ole Miss and Missouri, they had one of the easier schedules that were out there.
And I mean, that depends on how you feel about Mike Elko, but I think, they're excited about him, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. In essence, what you're looking at is that when you look at teams, in my mind, that can go 9-3, because I think that's the base level. I don't see a situation right now in a 12-team playoff that a 8-4 squad is going to get in. Right. I just don't see it. But can you see, and I'll go through the list just real quick. All right. Can you see Georgia going 9-3?
Not easily, no. I cannot see that.
No, but I'm not in the bad way. But can you see them winning 9 games?
Oh, at least 9 games. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, go.
You see them winning 9 games.
Yeah.
Okay. Tennessee. Now, Tennessee, I think, is one of those. I don't know if they can get to 9 wins next year because they lose a lot. Would you include them in there or no?
It's borderline.
Let's say no. Let's just say no. So we're not getting kind of crazy.
I would say no right now. Yes.
All right, Kentucky. I think Kentucky could get to 9 wins. I think with Brock Vandagriff, I mean, they were a disaster this year with Devin Leary, but Liam Cohen didn't pick necessarily Devin Leary. I think he picked Brock Vandagriff.
Okay, I'll give you Kentucky.
So give me Kentucky, give me Georgia, and give me Missouri.
All right.
Florida, South Carolina, and Vandy. Any of
Yeah,
those
it's gonna be
teams
tough.
in there?
No, not really, not really. That's gonna
No.
be really, really tough.
So
Florida's
that's
schedule
3.
was brutal. Yeah.
Right. So that's 3 in the East. Okay.
Okay.
Oklahoma,
Yes.
I think so.
Yep.
Texas.
Yes.
Okay. So that's 5. Now let's go
Yep.
to the West.
Yep.
Alabama,
Yes.
definitely. That'd be 6. Ole Miss,
Yes.
yes. LSU,
Yes.
yes. That's 8. Now, I think you got at least a minimum of 8 teams that are in that playoff vibe for coming up next year. A&M,
It's a borderline, but yeah, I could see it. Yes.
I see it, right? So
Yeah.
that's 9. Auburn, Mississippi State, Arkansas. I think you throw Arkansas out. I think you throw Mississippi State out. Auburn is the only other one that I'm trying to figure out. Do you think that there's enough with Hugh Freeze in year 2 that, hey, man, we figured it out with Peyton Thorne. We got the right guys around him. They were kind of crushing it in the transfer portal. Yes or no?
I mean, year 2, he's not going to lose to New Mexico State. Okay, so let's throw that one out.
Okay.
And I mean, he's a play away from both Georgia and Alabama. I mean, those are the 2 teams play for the SEC championship. One play goes different. Either one of those games, they win it. So, yeah, I would say Hugh Freeze could do that in year 2.
Yeah, so I think Auburn and Tennessee are going to be in similar spots where it's like, man, things would have to really go right to be a playoff team. But if you look at that, you're talking about 10 of the 16 teams in this conference will tee it up on the first week of the season and go, we should be or we can be a college football playoff team.
Yeah, great
Then
point.
I started going through the ACC. I started going through the Big Ten. The Big Ten's got 18 teams in there. There's only 7. And I had to stretch to get 7 teams that I think could be a college football playoff team. It just can't wait to figure it out coming up.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Awesome.
It's going to be fun to watch. The show, Burnout, presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round. When you sign on at MyBookie.ag, they will make that initial deposit. They'll match it up to $1,000. When you use code next round, MyBookie.ag, bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag, code next round. Also, our friends at Manscaped. This is the Handyman. It is that portable razor. Gives you a great shave, easy to travel with, use it at home as well. The Handyman, they've got great things like the Beard Hedger, the Weed Whacker, which takes care of the nose hair and the ear hair, the Lawnmower, full body and the undercarriage, all the great body products, the great boxer shorts, all there at manscaped.com. Code BURNS at manscaped.com. Code BURNS will save you 20% off your initial order at manscaped.com when you use code BURNS because you watched it right here on the Burnout. All right, let's talk about LSU, Wisconsin, and their bowl game there, Burnsy. No Jaden Daniels in this game.
Yeah.
So
no problem.
No problem.
I mean, like, in fact,
it'd be crazy to do it. Yeah.
I love that. And this is how different the game has changed over the last 3 or 4 seasons, right? It's like I felt like about 4 or 5 years ago, Brownie, probably like 2018, 2019 is when we first started seeing guys kind of opt out. And we're like, dude, this is not right. Like, what's going on with the game? Now I think we just understand the realities of it. And we've shifted from being disappointed to like, hey, you know what? I'm excited to see what a new quarterback can do. So I think this was the right decision for Jaden Daniels to start working on his draft prep. And I think it was the right decision for LSU simply for the fact of now you get to figure out what you have with Garrett Nussmeier in these 15 practices to figure out what the direction and what this team's going to be next year.
Yeah, the ReliaQuest Bowl is the bowl game, and LSU favored by 10 right now at mybookie.ag. But, here's the thing. Like, LSU fans knew that Texas A&M game, that's my last chance to see him. As long as I know it's my last chance to see Jaden Daniels play in a Tigers uniform, I'm cool with that, right? I mean, any LSU fan that went to that game realistically thought it's going to be the last time I see him play for LSU.
I think, again, if it had been a situation where LSU had just missed out, like Georgia had, and they were playing FSU, then it's like, man, come on. Like, we want to beat FSU, and we want to beat this team or that avenge the loss. And look, come on, Jaden, one more ride. I think they would be okay with that. For Wisconsin and the ReliaQuest one, I'm like, like I don't know if it changes it. And if anything, it just finds out almost like a glorified 2-week scrimmage of, hey, what do you have going forward right now? And I think LSU, I think Malik Neighbors is definitely going to play in that game. I think Brian Thomas is definitely going to play in that game. They want to put up some numbers right now. And I think Mike Denbrock wants to showcase that game as we're going to fling it around. We're going to show you that Nussmeier can do this. And we're going to show that next group of guys that are going to possibly sign or when the transfer portal reopens, that, buddy, we're just going to be building Bolitnikoff and Heisman Trophy Award winners as long as I'm running this offense. So I think that they try to pile on it as much as they can against Wisconsin's team.
And for Nussmeier, this feels like a jumpstart on spring ball for him. This is,
Sure.
they may still go to the transfer portal. They may get another quarterback. They may sign a kid that can come in and play right away. But you got the leg up because you're playing in this game right now. You got the leg up in the battle.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's, again, we haven't seen Nussmeier when he really had an opportunity to prepare.
Right.
I think they kind of threw him in there. And I think he's one of those guys where he needs more reps because I think physically he can do it. But I think what happens is he's like me at any time that I'm like, oh, let's go. Like he's so excited. He's like this Labrador puppy that all of a sudden starts throwing the ball, 400 miles an hour when he needs a little bit of a touch right now. And so I think this is going to be a good litmus test for him. And remember, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't add Jaden Daniels to the squad until Brian Kelly took over and they added him in the spring. And look what happened a year and a half later.
Right.
Damn guy wins the Heisman. You know what I mean? So, it's just one of those deals.
Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, Iowa, Tennessee. Tennessee an 8.5-point favorite in this game at mybookie.ag. When we got to the end of the year, there were a lot of Tennessee fans already saying, is it Nico time yet? Is it Nico time yet? Is it Nico time yet? Yeah. I feel like that's what Tennessee fans want to see in this bowl is a little bit of Nico time.
Why would it not, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think this is actually a really good team because I think Iowa is one of those teams that are going to be kind of locked in at this point because I think some of these programs are trying to prove themselves. And when you come out the SEC, you're coming out the best conference in college football. So I think Iowa definitely wants that game. For Tennessee, I think it felt like what Heupel did for Joe Milton, playing him against Vandy and not bringing in Nico early and letting him get his numbers. That almost felt like the, hey, going away present for Joe Milton. Thank you for how hard you've worked, everything you've done. And it would not shock me if all of a sudden that if Milton comes in, it's much more of a 50-50 split, regardless of how that game ends up playing out. Because I'll be honest with you, I've seen Joe Milton. I need to see a lot more of Nico because we just had that conversation. If it's going to be Nico, I need to see that he can hit the ground running right from the jump if I want to be, looked at as a college football playoff contender. And what's interesting, Brownie, the more I think about this, if you're Heupel, okay, and we know the committee is always watching. The committee always, and there's going to be narratives that are out there. If all of a sudden you put Nico in and he crushes it in the bowl game, you're like, bro, like where was this guy earlier in the season, even though he wasn't quite ready? What's going to be the commentary? Hey, that was a really good Iowa defense, and Nico is a lot better, and he's the real deal. There's going to be a lot more hype about this team. And if there's a lot more hype going into the offseason in a 12-team playoff, buddy, you have to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I agree completely with you. Get that slow it down Iowa offense against what likes to be a Tennessee up pace. This is such a weird kind of dichotomy of two teams. Just a real contrast, I guess, is a way I would put
Virginia. It's like Virginia basketball versus like Loyola Marymount hoops back in the day.
Yeah, just such a contrast to the way these two teams want to play. All right, we're going to wrap up talking Auburn, Maryland in a moment, but a reminder that the Burnout is presented by mybookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at mybookie.ag. They will match that initial deposit up to $1,000. Free money for you to play with right there at mybookie.ag when you use code next round. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with mybookie.ag code next round. Also, Burns is about to unveil his latest Roback. I've got mine on right here. Roback.com, code TNR20 for 20% off your initial order. He's got it in the package right there. Pop it over. Let's see what we got.
I literally got excited because I don't know right
you don't
here.
Know
so we got one of the performance hoodies. So I'm looking for, not hoodies, a golf shirt. So that's perfect. Looking forward to that.
Those are really good.
Got the little quarter zip blue. As you can tell, every single week here I wear the blue. I think they noticed that. So I got the blue one. But this is obviously my favorite. I'm hooked on these. Just the actual kind of green. I mean, the damn hoodies are the most ridiculous hoodies in the history of hoodies. Like the amount of people that will literally, I'll be on a flight or something and I'll see some person go be like, you really like those things, don't you? And they'll actually touch it. I'm like, nobody touches anybody in this world anymore. I'll have people touch the damn sweatshirt and touch the hoodie. And they're like, oh, I get it now. I understand.
I've had people say, "Do you wear a t-shirt under them?" I'm like, "No, I want it
No,
touching my skin. It's the softest thing in the world. I don't wear a
no, I
t-shirt."
still wear the t-shirt underneath it.
Oh,
I mean, I'm not
it's
that
pajamas.
crazy.
It's I'm a wild man. I'm from Calhoun County in Alabama. I'm a wild man. It's so soft. They're the best. Roback.com, code TNR20 for 20% off your initial order at Roback.com. All right, let's wrap up talking Auburn, Maryland, playing up in Nashville. As we record this, word had come out earlier today from Mike Loxley that Talia Tagovailoa will not play in this game. I'm not entirely surprised. I don't know what he's going to do, though. He's actually got eligibility left.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would imagine you would think the reason why they don't play in that bowl game is one, they're going to test where they're at in the draft, or
Yep.
the fact that maybe they put themselves in. I don't think he would be able to be put in the transfer portal again.
Who
I don't know
knows
what the hell the
anymore?
rules are anymore. I
I
don't
know.
like if NCAA, if you're looking at it, what are the rules? Can you tell us, please? Because nobody knows. Because we just saw the NCAA say guys that were waiting on waivers to transfer again, they're allowed to do it. So does that mean that everybody can transfer at some
Who
point?
knows? Who
I
knows?
I don't know. This is again sounds stupid, but it's an attitude game for Hugh Freeze. It's an opportunity to figure out what the hell do you have with this team and whether or not Peyton Thorne is your guy going forward. Peyton talked about that a couple of days ago, or rather Hugh talked about it, saying, listen, I know people every time a quarterback enters the portal, they're like, throw the bag at him. Like, go ahead and grip this guy, which, by the way, is also hilarious that we're into a point in college athletics where Hugh Freeze is in an open mic talking about fans asking him to throw the bag at players.
And nobody bats an eye.
That may have gotten Ole Miss into trouble back in the day.
I know.
Now it's what normal life is. But he says, listen, between Holden and between Peyton, I feel if we get the right guys in here, we have the right room. And as I kind of cringed when he said that at first, because I don't know if I believed that. Then I started thinking, you damn near beat Georgia doing it with him. You damn near beat Alabama. You're a couple plays away from those two things. Maybe he's on to something right now, and you get in and they're starting to clean up in the transfer portal. This would be another one of those monster games if you want Hugh Freeze to have some momentum going forward.
Yeah, signed a couple good receivers, which he's got some in his class there, and you could be in a good spot. I like this spot for Auburn here because they're pretty much going to have across the board buy-in. And now you got Maryland without the quarterback. It didn't necessarily pay off for Auburn, but it looks a lot like that game they played against Purdue a couple of years ago in the bowl game. Remember, it was like 70-0, and there was just so much excitement. I think Auburn can actually build a little excitement for next year in this game.
Yeah, I mean, and this is one of those ones. I go back, remember, and watch LSU, and I want to say it might have been before last season where we're like, man, dude, they're going to have like 50 players or something like that, or maybe it was a year before.
Oh, yeah. In the
Houston
Bowl, the bowl in Houston, yeah.
And they scored 75 points, and they just had fun. Like, I feel like I want to see – I am kind of curious on this one, on Hugh's approach, because you're going to have a guys that transfer out. You're going to have some fun with this. Is this one of those games where like, dude, let's go PlayStation, Xbox fun on it? Or is it going to be like, dude, this is like week 7. Let's grind through this. Let's use it as a rep game.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, selfishly, as a fan, I'd love it to be like a YOLO type game where he's just throwing everything in the playbook that he didn't get a chance to do it. Have some fun. It is what it is. Like my living, eating, breathing, dying, sleeping on bowl games that aren't college football playoff games are no longer a thing. It's more like,
I'm with you.
Give me a reason. Like, give me a reason to have some fun and give me a reason to have some hype and go. That's it.
It is the Burnout. He is Peter Burns of the SEC Network. The show presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. They will match that initial deposit up to $1,000. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag. Code next round. All right, Burnsy, have a great Christmas. We'll see you next time.
Merry Christmas, boys.